Ordy, what are you thinking about? Why don't you listen to me at all? It seems like that Turk brainwashed you." Martin's voice was getting louder. She was quiet, but looked at the young man judgingly. Ordy and Martin became friends in elementary school. Martin was tall and slim and had brown hair and brown eyes. He loved reading since he was little and also enjoyed learning about military technology. He was smart, educated, and goal-oriented. Ordy was a slim, blue-eyed blonde of average height who couldn't stop getting the attention of guys. Her delightful smile and laugh had melted everyone, adult and child alike, as a child. Ordy was always popular, so at parties and later at clubs, she was always surrounded. However, she never had any serious relationships. Martin was handsome, so girls gave him plenty of attention too. They often joked with each other about the opposite sex, but did only out of jealousy, even though neither would actually admit it. Ordy decided she wouldn't ruin their friendship by dating, so she was constantly going through guys, without giving Martin a chance. Martin felt she was being distant, and was afraid to make a mistake, so he remained a trusted friend that could help her, protect her, or support her whenever necessary. Ordy responded to Martin in kind. She was a wonderful, reliable friend that could be trusted with anything. When they graduated from high school, they went to college. Martin became a soldier and Ordy became a PR manager and had now been working for a large company for a year. She dreamed of opening her own advertisement agency and doing PR work with famous brands. She already had made some progress here, too. Martin and Ordy were sitting in their favorite cafe at her request to tell him important news. She was getting married. Ahmed had proposed and she was beside herself with happiness. But Martin didn't quite share in that excitement. Actually, he reacted negatively and harshly to the upcoming event. Ordy looked at her frustrated, angry friend silently, who was lecturing her, and thought about one thing. He's so sweet and familiar, even when he's so angry. It seems we've been friends our entire lives. What will I do without him? After the wedding, we won't be friends anymore after all. This wasn't because she was moving to a new country, but because her fiancé, a Middle Eastern man, was very jealous. He had told her many times he thought it was inappropriate for her to have any close relationship with other men. Martin was a very valued friend, and thinking about separating from him weighed on her heavily. But Ahmed loved her, and she thought restrictions like these were based on nothing else like jealousy. Martin wasn't calming down. He'd been lecturing her for an hour, and for a second, she even thought she might be okay without him. What's his name? Ahmed. His name is Ahmed. Don't act like you can't remember his name, she corrected him, rolling her eyes. Martin expressively garbled his name and acted like he couldn't remember it. He absolutely did not agree with her choice. Maybe you can't understand you're destroying your life. What about your career and the company you wanted to open? Do you think he will support you? He'll put you in a burqa, sit you at home, and tell you to keep the house and his babies. Listen, I don't want to upset you. I'm your friend and want the best for you. He tried to reach her but couldn't. If you were my friend, you'd just be happy for me, Ordy answered, offended. I'm sorry, I just want to tell you the truth. And as you know, the truth can sometimes hurt, Martin said. Everything you're saying is just stereotypes. Ahmed and his family are modern people, and those old traditions are in the past, she said, brushing his concerns aside. Turkey is a patriarchal country with many cultural traditions, and Muslims revere those traditions. As soon as you're his wife, you'll become a slave without the right to speak. I guarantee you won't be his only wife, he continued to describe her tragic life. What are you saying? There's no polygamy in Turkey, she screamed with anguish in her voice. Not officially, but Muslims can have up to 4 wives, even if they are just concubines or lovers. Martin looked at Ordy. She couldn't hold back and burst into tears after what he said. Martin wanted to say something else, but he couldn't. He sat next to Ordy, hugged her, and held her. Stop crying. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm exaggerating. I'm just worried about you. You'll be far away, and I won't be able to protect you, Martin half whispered, and there wasn't a trace of frustration or anger left in his voice. Don't cry or your cheeks will get red, and your nose and eyes will get stuffy. Then your sultan won't want to take you to his palace, he comforted her gently, like a child. For the first time, Martin didn't walk Ordy home because of something he had to do, but she understood. She watched Martin leave, and there was a weight on her heart, but she smiled and tried to be happy. The The phone rang and Turkish lessons was on the caller ID. The woman on the other end reminded Ordy that today was their first lesson. Ordy met Ahmed online. Her friend, who really wanted to meet foreigners, registered on a dating app and registered Ordy as well. She met Ahmed and they started chatting. At first, Ordy didn't give their communication much thought. However, Ahmed was able to get her attention. He gave Ordy compliments, told her wonderful things, and sent her flowers many times. So Ordy rethought their relationship. He was handsome, charming, spoke English well, and took good care of her. He said he was a fairly successful businessman. He loved seeing pictures of his country. He had a wonderful house, drove expensive cars, and went to amazing clubs and hotels. All of his seductive speeches quickly turned into admissions of love. One day, he told her he had a surprise for her that was being delivered. Imagine her surprise when she opened her door and saw him. He was standing with the bouquet, said he loved her then and there, and asked her to marry him. The wedding was set 3 months later. Ahmed's family were to cover all the expenses for the ceremony. They decided to live in Turkey in Ahmed's nice house. Until they left, Ahmed decided to stay with Ordy. Ahmed talked to his family every day, which made Ordy think he was a family man. She didn't talk with them because she couldn't speak the language. She got the idea to learn Turkish and surprise him at the wedding by saying her vows in his native language. She found a teacher who promised to teach her as much as possible in that short time frame. So Ordy went to all her lessons and did all her homework, and spent her free time with a dictionary and watching Turkish movies that her teacher recommended. As a hardworking, goal-oriented person, she got the results she wanted. One day, during another video call with family, she realized she understood what Ahmed was saying, but what she heard terrified her. From Ahmed's conversations with his brother, she realized they had massive debts. He had planned to sell Ordy's house when they moved to slightly improve their financial situation. He had taken out another loan for this trip. What she heard next destroyed her. Ahmed asked his brother about a girl he would introduce Ordy to after the wedding that would become his second wife. From Ahmed's conversation with his mother, she learned that she should become Muslim, that she was young and healthy, and that she would help her with everything, serve who was needed, and even kiss hands. After the conversation ended, Ordy told her shocked fiancé in Turkish what she was thinking. He tried to justify himself, to butter Ordy up with gentle words and by kissing her hands. But she tossed all his things onto the street and told him to leave. When she was alone, she was surprised by how she felt. On the one hand, she was hurt from the deceit and betrayal. On the other, she was relieved. An hour later, she was in tears, hanging on Martin's neck, who answered her first phone call. "I was stupid. Why didn't I listen to you? You warned me. I thought he loved me and that he would carry me in his arms. I wanted a beautiful life, like a movie." Martin held her close, silently, and gently rubbing her back. "You know, I was offered a job in another state. At first, I wanted to say no to be closer to you, but when you said you were getting married, I agreed and signed the papers. It's a good job with a decent salary," Martin said suddenly. "That means you're leaving. Of course, I understand," she whispered after lowering her eyes. She understood she didn't have the right to hold him back. It was his life and his decision. But she felt incredibly hurt for some reason. Suddenly, he raised her head and looked her right in the eyes and asked, "Will you go with me?" "Ordy, I've loved you ever since elementary school. You've always talked about our friendship, so I was scared to take the first step and be rejected." "Well, I always felt like you never felt anything more than friendship towards me. How can I go with you since only spouses can go?" she asked quietly. "Then marry me. Stop pulling my leg." She sat at her computer in a cafe. Finally, she exhaled and looked at the time. It was still small, but her advertising agency was gradually growing. She had to get her son from school and her daughter from daycare and rush home. Martin would be home from work soon, and they were going to have an amazing family evening all together.